Well, let's get to CNBC headquarters. Jim Cramer is standing by. And Jim, this interview you have this morning with the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, is incredibly important. I'm waiting to hear everything he has to say. But I guess one of the big questions has to be, is this something you think that puts additional leverage for the two sides to come together and sign a deal? Or does it mean that the Republican senators who didn't like some of these things that were in the deal before anyway have even less reason to come to the table and say, OK, we'll get a deal together?
Well, that's how I felt after listening to my namesake, Senator Cramer, from but I mean, honestly, that was an interview which just basically said it's over. And I know Senator Cramer. I met him a long, long time ago when I went to the Bakken. And he was a reasonable man. And I think that reasonable has become something that, as Tom Friedman would say, extinct. And that we've got sect, that's SECTs, going against us. I don't think that that's the case with Secretary Mnuchin. So I think that the hardened position is more posturing. And I'm expecting a more optimistic Secretary Mnuchin than we got even, let's say, this Sunday. Just because I know that there are interests that he has that transcend blue and red. And I think that there are interests that Nancy Pelosi has, the Speaker has, that transcend. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a fool to be optimistic, but I'm going that way.
I'm so eager to hear where there would be more room for negotiation, because, look, the president himself said that this doesn't take care of things like the states and municipalities or even the schools, that you would have to see Congress come and step in on those issues in particular. And in Congress, I think it's got to be pretty hard to say, OK, we'll go along with these executive orders, even if it's giving you what you want. It's an admission that Congress is just less powerful and has been for a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Gulf of Tonkin resolution with President Johnson declaring war against Vietnam when there were no votes that were real. I mean, this is a war, right? It's always interesting to me. There's no discussion of the pandemic. There's just discussion of blue and red. There's no discussion of how many states are now offline. There's just a discussion about whether we should punish certain municipalities in certain states. And, man, it's a damn pandemic. I mean, it's not like there were profligate congressmen or profligate governors or profligate mayors. I mean, geez, we're at war. But the war seems to be set aside when it just seems like a war between the administration and Nancy Pelosi, when it's really a war against a really incredible disease that nobody's really had great luck with yet.
Jim, executive order to help, payroll tax cut or help unemployment benefit is one thing. But what if we don't get a full deal that extends mortgage forbearance and extends renters' protections and so on and so forth? How bad could that be for the banks if we then see bankruptcies and the like pick up because of it?
It's interesting. The banks actually had their first rally last week because I think there was expectation that perhaps by Friday there would be a deal. But the answer, I have to tell you, the answer, Wolf, is that the charges that they've taken are way too low. You know this group better than anyone. Wells Fargo does not have the right charges if we go down this path. I mean, Charlie Sharp's got to revise, Jamie Dimon's got to revise, Brian Moynihan's got to revise, and that's why these stocks are so precarious. I continue to think that the dividends are certainly in doubt if you follow along with this path. But obviously the president's not doing that, or neither is the secretary caring about that. But the fact is that as an investor, you have to, Wolf.
Hey, Jim, not to throw one more thing on your plate that has to be solved today, but how do you weigh in on this question of states kind of battling it out? Who should get the money? If you live, let's say, in New Jersey, you work in New York, but you haven't set foot in New York in 5 months at this point. This is battling out all over the place. We had the governor of New Hampshire on today, where he's trying to say you can't tax people who live in New Hampshire if they used to work in Massachusetts. How do you weigh down on that? How do you think this will kind of work out? Because it's a big deal for a lot of municipalities.
I'm taxed equally in New Jersey and New York, so my tax rate is about 63%. And so what's happened is that the two states have had to come together to figure out how to do it. And they've done it very equitably. They split it. And that's what states do that typically have this. If you work in one state, work in another. And there's a lot of comedy, COMITY kind, not like what was expressed by the governor Sununu. I mean, look, it's great to be able to say, listen, that's Massachusetts' problem. But that's not responsive to the union. See, there's a lot of things that are in play here.
But
like
Jim, this is different. This is different. You're working in both places. You're working in both places. I live in New Jersey. I work in New Jersey now. I haven't set foot in New York in forever. Why should New York get a piece of my revenue for that? Why shouldn't New Jersey get all of that tax revenue?
They shouldn't. If they sue you for the revenue, you have to fight it in court. I did that in court, and I was going to win, I felt, and then all the documents were destroyed by the World Trade Center. But you have to fight them. I mean, I know it's ridiculous, but you have to fight them. It cost me a lot to fight City Hall, but I felt I had to.